Hello, it is late April 2023 and Scott, Joey and I are in the Tuskegee Ranger District of Nantahala National Forest, about to set off into the Fires Creek area. The challenges on this trip are numerous. Sections of the trail could be overgrown with briars, there could be blowdowns, there could be eroded sections, lots and lots of steep up and down as we follow the ridges throughout the area. The weather is also going to have some fun for us. We've got some heavy winds on the forecast, we've got a full night and day of rain, and then near freezing temperatures to round off the trip.
We picked the one super cold weekend in April, and as luck would have it, this is the one we decided to spend outside.
It's beautiful today though. We're going to start our trip by hiking straight up the Chunky Gal Trail to connect to the Fires Rim Creek Trail. We're ready to get going. The Chunky Gal Trail begins by paralleling and crossing Big Toonie Creek. And once we leave the creek behind, we'll have a steep climb up to the top of the ridge. The fun has begun. Heading up, Deadline Ridge along the Chunky Gal Trail. Continue our climb up. There is nothing but steep terrain in the Nantahala National Forest. We are starting to earn some views here at the top of Deadline Ridge. Made it to the top of Tuskegee Bald. Some great views out into the Nantahala Forest. Beautiful day for us. We are pretty much at the top of where we're heading. We finished up our stretch of the Chunky Gal Trail, at least until we come back this way in a couple days. We're now hopping on the Rim Trail, planning on tackling a couple more miles before we finish the day. We came down the Bald Springs side trail to try to gather water, but the hogs have really torn up the area down here, and so we're looking through the woods to try to find some clean space to gather. I would not want to rely on Bald Springs as a year-round water source, but it's been pretty wet out here recently. We were able to find enough to filter. We're now climbing up the Bald Springs Trail to return to the Rim Trail. In 1974, this plane crashed into the side of the mountain, costing 2 lives, and the wreckage lies here almost 40 years later to serve as their memorial. Home sweet home. We've made it to the area that we're gonna set up camp tonight along the Rim Trail. Nice little gap here, some solid views. We carried in our water. Now it's time to get set up. Eric Rudolph, a domestic terrorist known for a series of bombings, hid out in the remote Fires Creek area for 5 years while on the FBI's most wanted list. Camp is set up. On this trip, we're using the Fontana and Hiawassee Lakes Nat Geo Trails Illustrated Map number 784, and even more important, Then the map is the Chunky Gal Trail and Fires Creek Rim Trail Guidebook by John R. Ray et al. Let's take a look at the map for day 1. Starting on Tooney Gap Road, we hiked up the Chunky Gal Trail to connect with the Rim Trail. We then bombed down Bald Spring Branchway to find water, returned to the Rim Trail, and set up camp along the ridge. Day 1 was about 6 miles. Day 1 of our backpacking adventure in the Fires Creek Rim has been a great day. Could not have asked for any better weather, and this is supposed to be our best weather day of the trip, so we are enjoying it while it lasts. The Chunky Gal Trail was quite rambunctious. The Rim Trail has been treating us a little bit nicer here so far, but we know it has some challenges in store. We've got camp set up, we're getting dinner in us, and we're going to get settled in here before the rains are supposed to come this evening. As long as nothing crazy happens, that'll be the end of day 1. Good night.
Good night.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We made to day 2 in the Fires Creek Rim of Nantahala National Forest. Last night started out very calm and restful, and then right before 3 a.m. the thunderstorms hit, and they hit hard.
They did hit hard, my goodness.
Scott managed to escape the worst of it. Joey got caught in the middle, got pretty wet last night, and then I got the worst of it. Both of our tarps got blown up by the initial huge wind blasts of the thunderstorm, and then as soon as that wind came through, the skies just started dumping down. So we were both here in the middle of the night, pitch black, winding, raining, messing around outside of our tarps, trying to get them set back up, and got pretty wet. And so spent a nice cold, wet night last night.
Yeah.
My gear in particular is still pretty wet, and the nights are only getting colder throughout this trip, so certainly hopeful that we'll get a little bit of sun today. Let me put my sleeping bag out and hopefully dry it out a little bit.
Hopefully. We got a pretty chilly night ahead of us, so hopefully we can manage to get everything dry, so we'll be good to go.
We made it through, we're alive, and it's time to hit the trail.
Let's do it.
First half of our day is heading down into the bottom of the gorge. A little snake here on the trail this morning. It's pretty cold, he's not moving around. Well, I said we were going downhill for the first part of our day. But what that really means is short, steep uphill sections followed by long, steep downhill sections. That's what we're doing. Looking out on the other side of the Fires Creek Rim, that's what we'll be hiking tomorrow. The sky's clearing up for us. Ignoring the fact that we picked the last cold weekend of the season, it's really an ideal time of year to be out here. Although there is lots of greenery, most of the big trees have not leafed out yet, and so we've got plentiful views out to the left and the right. Our first good view of Fires Creek. Leatherwood Falls. After a seemingly unending series of ups and downs, we finally descended to the low point of the Rim Trail. We're at the picnic area for a late lunch and to set our gear out in the sun to let it dry. Back on the move, the Rim Trail runs concurrently with the Leatherwood Loop Trail by Leatherwood Falls. We are facing a large climb up the Valley River Mountains. The old law of loops, what goes down must come up. Clearest view of the trip so far, looking south out of the Fires Creek area. Gathered water at a small stream crossing the trail. We've got a little over a mile left before we hope to find camp for the night. Looking out from Short Off Knob, the camping area that we were aiming for was way too windy, so we're pushing on, hoping to find something before too terribly long. Home sweet home. We've finally found camp, longer than expected. A little ways down the Phillip Ridge Trail, we're gonna set up on this old flat road bed.
We got our 12 in.
The Rim Trail circles the Fires Creek Basin, a horseshoe-shaped drainage nestled between the Valley River Mountains and the Tusquety Mountains. Let's take a look at the map for day 2. Starting at our campsite on the Rim Trail, we followed that up and down, up and down, up and down the ridge line until we reached the Fires Creek picnic area, and then continued on through it along the Rim Trail, up and around, until we came a little bit down the trail at Will King Gap to set up camp. Day 2 was about 12 miles. Day 2 has been a pretty good day, especially compared to the very difficult night 1 that we had. It could have rained today, it didn't.
Yep, thank goodness.
We definitely hiked a bit farther than we had wanted to, but what we have found is a nice campsite that is out of the wind, which is imperative because it is roaring. We're pretty tired, the sun's setting, we're gonna get settled in, and as long as nothing crazy happens like last night, that'll be the end of day 2. Good night. Good morning. We made it to day 3 of our backpacking adventure in the Fires Creek Rim of Nantahala National Forest. Last night was awesome. We had no wind, we were nice and protected at this campsite. There was no rain, no thunder, no issues.
No, nothing except for good sleep. What a treat.
We needed it. And it was such a boon yesterday to be able to dry our gear out at the picnic area. If it hadn't been for that, we would have been ranging from uncomfortable to dangerous, but as it was, we were nice and warm and toasty. Today we've got about 10 miles. We're gonna circle around and finish off the Rim Trail, get back to Tusquety Bald, and give ourselves the Chunky Gal Trail tomorrow to finish off the trip. It's time to hit the trail. Looking west out into the Valley River Valley. A beautiful day for us today. Looking south into Fires Creek. A short ways off the Rim Trail, up Old Forest Road 427, is the remains of a fire tower on Big Stamp. Just below the summit is a concrete bunker that was built to shelter fire tower occupants from serious storms. We enjoyed a nice lunch in the protection of the rhodo thicket. In the past 60 minutes, the temperature has dropped precipitously, almost 10 degrees. Cloud covers moved in and it's really gotten quite chilly on us. Big views from the northeast to the northwest. It's like two different worlds. Down in the bottom it's springtime. Up here at the top, winter is still hanging on. Making good progress today. We believe we're about 2 miles from where we want to set up camp. The sun's trying to pop out a little bit. A welcome sight. Climbing up, up, up. Climbed back up to over 5,000 feet. And now we're at the County Corner Junction where Clay, Macon, and Cherokee come together. Mile and a half to camp. We dipped down below the intersection of the Chunky Gal and Rim trails to gather water. It was quite steep down and just a small trickle, but you gotta take what you can get on the rim. We're gonna retrace a little up the Rim trail to look for camp. Home sweet home. We found camp just a short ways before the intersection of Chunky Gal, off to the west of the Rim trail. Joey and I are getting set up in these trees, and Scott is going to grab a nice comfortable spot in the rhodo patch. There is a ton of bear scat up here. The U.S. Army cleared Tuskegee Bald in the 1960s using detonating cord to make a landing zone for Special Forces Huey helicopters. And here's a look around camp set up. There is me. There is Joey, and there is Scott. It's about dinner time. Let's take a look at the map for day 3. From our campsite below Wilking Gap, we reconnected with the Rim Trail to finish off the Valley River Mountains Ridge around the County Corner Junction and then up to Tuskegee Bald. Day 3 was about 11 miles. Day 3 of our backpacking adventure on the Fires Creek Rim has unequivocally been the best day of the trip. We were not running on sleep deprivation from a crazy thunderstorm. We did not have to go farther than we anticipated to find a campsite, and we had beautiful hiking along the way. On that note, the Rim Trail was not as bad as I had anticipated coming into it. It is absolutely steep up and down, but it seems like if you come at the right time of year, early spring, winter, late fall, before the trails get overgrown and while the leaves are down, giving almost constant views out to both sides, it's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, I was thoroughly expecting a ton of briars, a ton of this and that, just really chopping along a pencil-thin trail at most points, and now it was wide open, pretty nice, a lot of blowdown in a lot of areas, but they do a pretty good job of rerouting around a lot of that, so definitely not as bad as I thought it'd be either.
It's the coldest day of the trip. It's already almost the low of the entire trip, and we've still got a fair bit to drop. There is a frost warning in effect for the area. We're gonna get settled in and get some food in us. That'll be the end of day 3. Good night.
Good night.
Good morning. We made it to day 4 of our adventure at Nantahala. We said at the beginning of the trip the trifecta of weather challenges that we were going to face was rain, wind, and cold. We had our rain and our wind and the thunderstorm on the first night. We had the cold last night, and unfortunately the wind came back this morning as well. It is a little after 9:30 now, and the temperature has finally risen above freezing after about 3.5 hours of sunlight. It was a cold morning for us.
Yes, it was.
Today, we've got about 3.5 miles heading down the Chunky Gal Trail to finish off our trip. We're ready to hit the trail and go get some warmth. The largest of the dozen or so bear scats surrounding our camp.
Ooh, buddy.
On the road again. Bye-bye, Rim Trail. Thanks for the hospitality. Time for a ride on Chunky Gal. A nice stout climb to begin Chunky Gal, get us warmed up a little bit. We're enjoying the view from Tuskegee Bald before cutting down, down, down. 4 days traversing the Fires Creek Rim. What do you got to tell us, Joey?
Well, what a journey it has been. Starting off day one, coming up the Chunky Gal, which we are currently descending, was a humbling experience and a stark reminder of how much more hiking I feel like I should be doing with my life. Once we got up to the rim trail, pretty smooth sailing from there. Great first day overall. And first night, holy thunderstorm, Batman. We had an absolute crusher come through. Lane lost 3/4 of his tarp. I only lost one. So where he got drenched, I only got sprayed. We managed to survive it. Day two was the first time in my experience hiking that I have absolutely bonked. Fun reminder, food's important. Make sure you're eating, lest you hold yourself and your friends up big time. I did see some wild hogs yesterday. Not yesterday, day two, along the trail. That put a little more pep in my step. Yeah, tough second day. We made our 12 miles, had a relaxing night. Yesterday went off without a hitch. Our third day was great. We managed to rock into a campsite that is owned by a very large bear. Clearly runs that area, but he was kind enough to let us have it without a fuss. Great last night, chilly morning, but that's the mountains in April for you. One of my cool takeaways on this one, Scott was able to teach me about what's called ramps. They're a wild onion that grows out here. I never knew about them. We harvested some, threw them in our dinner. They're delicious. That's that. We got a little bit longer to get to the car here, and that'll be the end of the Fires Creek Rim Trail for us. What a delight.
What are your impressions of the Nantahala National Forest, Scott?
This was an excellent hike, especially coming off of several months of not being on trail. Definitely humbled me, put me in my place. It was good to get out here and experience this beautiful area with good friends. The challenge is, when you're in the heat of the moment, you always feel kind of grumpy about it, but then on the other side of it, it feels so good to have made that accomplishment. The variety of conditions out here definitely pointed to a few spots where I could use a little bit of improvement in my kit. It's interesting that this area out here is so wild, and there's definitely lots of wildlife out here and a wide variety of it. Evidence of hogs everywhere, just about from the start of the hike. And then Joey was fortunate enough to get to see a couple of them. We've definitely seen the evidence that there's lots of bear activity out here. Fortunately, we didn't have any encounters with them. But overall, this has been a fantastic hike. Definitely enjoyed it. And I'd like to thank Lane and Joey for having me along on this trip. It's always a pleasure to hike with these guys.
We've dropped back down to the several creek crossings to finish up our trek.
Yeah.
Closing in on the end of our hike. The day has turned absolutely beautiful. The sun streaming through the forest and warming us up from that cold morning.
Yeah! Woo. Woo. All right.
Yeah. 4 days on the Fires Creek Rim, done and dusted. We overcame adversity every step of the way. I think these two guys have pretty well summed up the experience of our trip. I'll say two other things. Firstly, it's great to have hiking partners like Scott and Joey. Positive attitudes, we really buoyed each other up. Look at the bright side even in the dim situations. That's how we got through the last 4 days. And all we had was ourselves because we did not see anyone else on the trails. The only people were at the Leatherwood picnic area on the sunny Saturday. No day hikers, no backpackers. We had the backcountry all to ourselves. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to Lane's World. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Let's take a look at the map for day 4. From our campsite on Tusquety Bald, we came down the Chunky Gout Trail back to Toonie Gap Road. Day 4 was about 4 miles for a trip total of approximately 33 miles.
Good morning. Oh, did I mess it up?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. All right.
Audio.
Take 2. Good morning. We made it to day 3 of our backpacking adventure.
I did the 3 to the dough for good morning.
Alright. Action. Good morning. We made it day 3.
One more time. I dropped my trekking pole and I was a split second behind you. All right, last one.
All right.